Thanks to N8n, the fastest growing AI tool, people like me with no coding experience can build AI agent workflows that can replace entire teams, all without writing a single line of code. But more than that, you can also create custom interfaces for those agentic workflows, and you can sell them to businesses or you can use them to grow yours. This video is the most complete guide to N8n and creating AI agents without writing a single line of code, and also how to turn these N8n workflows into your own customized Vibe-Coded Agentic Applications. In this video, we're going to cover it all. We're going to first talk about the great agentic opportunity and how software is changing. We're then going to talk about the 4 most important things to understand with N8n. We're going to do an initial setup of an N8n workflow and go through the basics. We're also going to talk about the built-in tools, APIs, and HTTP requests. Then we're going to dive into some more detail with AI agents and go through a lot of examples. We're also going to talk about a better interface for AI agents. Then we're going to put it all together. And at the end, we're going to show you our full examples of our Vibe-Coded Agentic Applications, and we're going to show you our Master Chief Marketing Officer that is an AI agent that has access to AI agents. And then at the end, we're going to talk about how Vibe-Coded Agentic Applications are going to get better as the years go on. And finally, we're going to talk about templates that you can download that will help you get started much faster. If videos like these excite you, we're going to be doing these basically every single day for the next 10 years straight. So make sure to hit the subscribe and like button. Let's dive into the video. Before we dive into N8n, I want to talk about the opportunity that is in front of us. Literally, the length of tasks that AI can do is doubling every 7 months. And so we are seeing a rapid growth in popularity of N8n, which is the first tool ever to allow people who've never written a line of code, like me. I know you're very technical, and so it's actually easier for you to pick it up. But people like me, we can build agentic workflows because it is the first visual builder of AI agents. And as you can see here, N8n is actually more, I don't know how this is even possible, becoming more popular than the term AI agents.
Yeah.
And I think part of the reason is there's a lot of people on YouTube who are shilling N8n. And as a way of making money, they're selling these templates, doing all these things, and it feels like there's some sort of scam going on. And I can't speak to those creators, but that doesn't mean that N8n is
super powerful.
It is incredibly powerful.
So at my previous startup that I founded, I had to make my own AI agent, and I can tell you how it went. 8 hours of coding minimum just to get like the bare bones, just basic agent. And you need a lot of experience to know it. You can't just go ahead and start typing it up, or you can't even vibe code it. It would take too long. And and if you wanted to add any features, you got to spend another 8 hours fixing that, trying to make it work. And that's just the back end. This has no like interaction with the front end. This is just how the AI works, and nothing works. And you'll probably look something like that towards the end. That's how I looked. I think I was actually blowing steam out of my nose.
Yeah, exactly.
But since like the past 2 weeks, we've been working on N8n. It's been glorious. 20 minutes just to get the agent set up. You can start immediately. You need no years of experience. You can start, and they have a bunch of tools and things you can add to it that we'll explain later to make it just as powerful as possible.
One thing I will add is like, it is a little bit intimidating at first because there's a lot of inputs and outputs. There's some coding adjacent things you need to understand, like JSON is useful to understand how different AI models can output in different formats. I feel like is a really important thing. And then just having like a general understanding of software is useful. But basically anyone who's just like interested in technology can learn it.
And we'll go over that today.
And we're going over everything.
You just do it maybe 2 or 3 times. We'll show you how to do it, and then you got it. It's super simple, and you'll look something like that.
Amazing. You'll be happy. Okay, so we're going to talk about a lot of things today. N8n has a lot of different features, but the 4 most important things that we need to understand, what are these 4 biggest things that we really need to understand about N8n?
The first thing you should understand is the workflow. So this entire thing right here is a workflow, and every workflow has actions. And so they have
like a sequence of actions.
A sequence of actions. And
every workflow starts with a trigger.
Every workflow starts with a trigger, and then from there, it hits those actions. In this case, we're just using a schedule trigger. So it just triggers every 15 minutes. And then it goes through the sequence of actions in which this case, this workflow just takes a file from my Dropbox, adds some captions, and then returns it in my Dropbox.
Yeah. And so basically every period of time, in this case, you have it set for 15 minutes. That's if you want to use AI to like actually make decisions.
Yeah. So the third most important thing to understand about N8n is their new node, AI agents. And if you can see here, it's not linear at all. It has a trigger, of course, but then you can see here that the AI agent has different tools, which are essentially actions that you saw before that the AI agent chooses when to use if necessary.
So that's the key difference, right? Linear workflows, those are actions, right? But AI agents, these are kind of like tools they can use if it basically needs to, right? You have, it's like a super smart AI model that can decide when to use the tool.
Yeah.
That's the key distinction.
So the difference, for example, the difference here is it'll always get the files in my Dropbox. In this linear workflow, in this AI agent workflow, maybe it doesn't need to use a Slack, but we have it here just in case we need it.
Right.
And so that brings us to our fourth most important thing about N8n is these new interfaces that people are making to connect these AI agents with them. And so I have one set up right here. We'll go over how to make all of this in just a second, but I'll go ahead and show you how it works. So we'll just go ahead and send this message saying, tell Riley I like his studio and to make a new calendar event for a meeting I have. We'll go ahead and send that. And then you can see.
Wow, the app triggered the workflow that's now using an AI agent that has access to tools.
Yeah.
Amazing. And so it sent me a message on Slack.
Yeah.
And then it's going to ideally schedule an appointment. So it added something to the to-do list, which is very cool.
Yeah. And that's exactly what I wanted. And then so it sent you a Slack message.
One of the things that can happen is things can fail. As you can see here, whenever you have a webhook trigger, basically the AI agent's going to respond back to that webhook.
Right.
And it actually wasn't able to schedule the appointment. It was able to send me a message, but it wasn't able to schedule the appointment. And so the AI agent realized that and sent that back through the webhook. So the VAAP actually, so now when you're using this Vibe-Coded Agentic application, which we'll talk about later, you actually know exactly what went wrong. And one key part of N8n, right? If there was the fifth thing that you really need to understand is you need to understand how to fix problems when they go wrong. Because let's figure this out.
Yeah. So if we open the calendar, it says forbidden. Perhaps check your credentials.
So he didn't set up credentials. We're going to talk about credentials a little bit later. He chose the wrong account.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you.
I think I probably mislabeled it or something.
Right.
It happens.
And it happens. And so the key is once you set this up correctly the first time, you then have access to these AI agents. So it's very important that you are very detail oriented when you're first setting these up so that at any time you can use an AI agent that has access to all these different tools.
And I think that's a benefit of AI agents is that it'll tell you exactly what went wrong and how to fix it. Whereas if it was a linear workflow like this, it would just silently fail and you wouldn't really get any feedback on what failed and how.
Amazing. Okay, let's actually build one of these workflows. And so anytime that you use N8n, it looks like this.
Yeah, this is how it looks. It's a canvas that's blank. And your first step will be those trigger nodes that we talked about. And they have a bunch of them. They have, if you send something to Notion or Telegram, it'll automatically trigger. You can do webhooks, which we'll talk about. But for now, we'll just do a schedule one. So let's set this trigger to trigger every 15 minutes. So every 15 minutes, what do we want it to do?
So every 15 minutes, what we can do is let's do that workflow that you showed with the Dropbox.
Awesome. So let's see what happens next. Do action and app, and they have over 400 different applications with their integration. They have a bunch of them, and you can search for your own. I'll just search for Dropbox.
Very cool.
And then we will list a folder.
List a folder.
Yeah.
Ooh, I wouldn't know what that means, honestly.
Well, if you go here, it says return the files and folders in a given folder.
Oh, it lists the files within a folder. Got it.
And so we'll do that, and we can return all of the files. And the folder path is, I have Dropbox open right here. It's just raw for like raw videos. So we'll just put raw here.
Raw. That's the name of it?
That's the name of the folder.
Okay, so whatever you name the folder, but if that's a subfolder within your thing, it's going to be a different path.
Yeah, it'll be a different path. And then say it was like raw. And then in that folder, there was another one that said videos. You just add another slash and it'd be videos.
Yes. And if you get confused, just ask ChatGPT. It'll always tell you.
You can ask ChatGPT.
Also, raw, right?
Yeah, raw. And then each input area has like this little question mark that you can hover over and it'll tell you the path of which to list the content.
Amazing.
Awesome. And then also another resource is this AI tool that N8n has built in. They can actually read your workflow and give you feedback on it.
Amazing.
Awesome. So after we list the Dropbox folders, go ahead and get the video that we want. So if it finds a video, it'll get that video. And let's see if it can download a file. Awesome. Download file path. And this is where things get interesting. Instead of just putting like a set file path or folder path like you just saw me, like I could do raw, but the file name could always be different.
It will always be
It
different.
will always be different. So we don't want to do that. So what we want to do is use the output, the result of the previous Dropbox. So when it lists all the files, we want to use whatever it lists into this file path.
Absolutely. Actually, go back to the list here. So one of the things to understand with any workflow builder, can you go to the out? So like, as you see, there's a trigger. Every 15 minutes, it's going to look in a folder and it's going to get a list, right? It is basically going to pull a list of files, all of which will have an ID of some kind.
Yeah.
And that's one thing you need to train your brain as you use N8n. You need to start thinking about what are the inputs and the outputs of each one, right? Once you train your brain to always think that, then you'll always realize that you need to correctly connect the output of the previous action into the input of the current action.
Yeah.
And here, every single time it's going to be different because the end result of this will move those files out of this. So every single time it's going to be new. So it needs to be dynamic. So each one is kind of like a variable. So if it finds a list of folders, each one will have a new number. We're using all those numbers in the flow. Anyway.
Yeah. And so in order to do that, if you look on the left side of when you open a node or an action, you will have these variables here. And so what we want to look for is name.
And so you can just drag the name just into there. And now you'll see the little brackets around it.
Yeah.
And that means it's dynamic. It'll change every time. Okay.
Yeah. And it's an expression. And then what do we want that file name to be inside of N8n? We'll just say video because that just makes things simpler. And let's rename this action node so we can keep track.
That's great.
All right. Now, how are we going to add captions to our video?
I don't know. You're telling me.
Yeah. We're going to use a service called ZapCap. And I'm sure maybe some of you have heard of it, and I just wanted to show you this because we can connect any API to N8n.
And so this is not a built-in integration, is it?
No.
And by built-in integration, right, like you want to add in another action. Obviously, there's hundreds of these, but they're not always there. Not all of them are there. There's unlimited actions that you could create with all of the tools on the internet. And that's thanks to the HTTP request, which is one that I need you to like kind of help me on this because these are the harder ones to set up.
So yeah, let's explain what an HTTP request is and like what even is an API. The way I think of it is an HTTP is like the common language that is spoken between different software and machines over the internet. This is a customer service bot, okay? They're not OpenAI, but they use OpenAI to make their bots.
Right.
And so let's say a customer comes in with a request. Maybe he wants some help with something. He's shopping, something broke. Okay, he comes in with that request. This customer service bot looks at the request and is like, ooh, I need to talk to OpenAI about this.
Mm-hmm.
But OpenAI doesn't know this has happened yet. So he's chilling. He doesn't know what's happening. So yeah, he sends a request over to OpenAI with everything that he knows. And then OpenAI has this link right here. And that's where this information would be sent.
Amazing.
Yeah.
And so basically, there's just one way of saying like, hey, I need information. And then on the way back, it's just like, here's the information that you need. And sometimes there's a charge associated with that. That's how OpenAI makes a lot of their money.
Yeah.
Is they charge people for these requests.
Right
and
here.
in the case of N8n, for all the built-in integrations, it has an open router integration, right? It basically just sets up the HTTP requests for you so that you don't have to do this.
Yeah.
But if you want to actually build agents, build workflows that are unique and useful, something that people would pay for, and you don't want to be limited by the built-in integrations, you have to be able to build your own HTTP requests and set it up so that you can use any external
Exactly.
tool.
Yeah. So N8n will usually set this conversation up for you. In which case they don't. Yeah, we would have to set this up on our own. And it's very simple. Once you just do one or two, you got it.
Yeah.
And so yeah. So let's basically go over exactly how this works. So let's say again, customer service bot, send something to OpenAI. Start.
Right.
And the first thing that happens is the API endpoint even there? Is it even real? Is this right here?
Right.
So let's say it's mistyped or it's old or doesn't exist anymore. This thing will shoot its shot, completely miss, and
It'll
what-
return like,
what
hey,
happens?
you failed.
Yeah, return error, endpoint not available. And
Right.
usually you get that 404 error that everyone has seen when they've been onto like a page. That doesn't
Yeah, and
if it succeeds, it sends the HTTP request, and then that reaches OpenAI, and then it goes in through another step. What type of HTTP request? So there's 4 main ones, but usually you'll only use 2, which would be get and post, and we'll explain that. And they're pretty simple. One method is get, which is just retrieving data from it's just retrieving data. So
Amazing.
that would just be like getting information back. So what that would look like is OpenAI would just send information back. And
so if OpenAI generates something, that is a get. Like if in the case of the customer service bot.
in the case of the customer service bot, it would send information to OpenAI, and then they both receive information. And so that would be a post where it sends data. And
Okay.
so you can think of posts as get and put, which put would just be putting data into OpenAI, and then OpenAI wouldn't send any data back.
Got it. Okay.
Okay. And then the next one is delete, which would probably wouldn't happen in this scenario, but you would just delete something from OpenAI.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so,
So get means retrieve, post means send,
yeah.
put means update
Yeah.
a field, and then delete means remove data.
Yeah. So the method right here would be delete, get, and you don't got to worry about
And what are
head.
we doing on this step?
So the first step, we would be sending the video to ZapCap and then getting the ID of their upload back.
So what are we putting here for that?
Or using post,
We're using
because
post.
they're both
Makes sense.
getting and receiving information.
Amazing.
Yeah. And so what happens after that? Is the request successful? Do you have, proper authorization? Are you allowed to make that request?
Mhm.
Did the request go through, or was there an error? If it's no, then it will fail.
And then if in the case of N8n, if it is no, then the actions are done. You're not
Yeah.
going to be able to keep moving along, right? And so that's why it's so important to make sure that these are successful and they are robust in a sense. They are able to take in multiple files, right? Because if it
Yeah.
tries to get a file and then it ends up being an image, right? Then like, is everything going to fail? Or like that? These are all the things that you need to think about, because as soon as one step fails, like the whole chain is done.
Yeah.
And so you got to make sure everything is set up.
Yeah. And you can sort of handle errors sometimes, but in the case of N8n, it usually won't work. And that's how you get, an error of 500 or something about that you may see.
And that's actually what makes agents so interesting, is because like if you've used agents on N8n, one of the HTTP requests could fail, and then it might actually try another method, which is super cool. It ends up so because like just like you and I, like if we're setting up our presentation and we fail, we don't just say like error and then quit.
Yeah.
We just try something else.
Right,
And so
right.
agents are beginning to do that, which is
Yeah.
super cool.
Yeah. And you can also set something up where, like, if it fails, you can make it search the web
Mhm.
and find an answer and then
Yeah.
try again. And that's what makes it agentic.
So what happens when it succeeds?
If it succeeds, receive response with data, and you would process the response, and then you usually get 200, which is like a code that you get, which is okay.
So you want 200, you don't want 400.
Yeah, you don't want 4 or 5, you want 2.
Amazing. And so actually, if you go into that workflow, go back to the HTTP request, there's going to be an output, right? On the left side of these settings, you have the input, and on the right side, you have the output. That's what you're sending to the next node.
And it's important to set these up correctly. So yeah, let's set up our first HTTP request. So our method is post because we're both getting and receiving information. And the URL is that endpoint that we talked about. So in this case, API, super cool service. ZapCap's case, let's go over to their docs. Their URL would be https:/API. All right, so the first thing that we need is the URL and the endpoint. Going back to the diagram, it is this thing right here, the endpoint.
And this endpoint, like
Yeah.
where do we find this endpoint?
In our case, using ZapCap, we're just going to search up ZapCap docs, but you could do that for anything. So you
So
could
like
do,
no matter what step we were setting up. So let's say we were setting up access to Perplexity, which I don't think they have a
no,
tool within N8n. We would look up Perplexity docs or documentation.
yeah,
And there we will find this magical endpoint
Yeah.
link.
So you'll find the post and then the endpoint link. And in this
Amazing.
case, it looks like that. And so we'll go over. So we'll get that URL and then we'll go back to N8n and just paste that there.
Okay.
Perfect.
Cool.
Authentication. Let's go back to the docs.
So in order to use this URL, we're going to need to give in some sort of password because we do have to pay for these tools most of the time, right? There's some open APIs that you can use up to a certain amount for free, but most of the good ones are ones you have to pay for.
Yeah.
And so we need to like set up some sort of account here.
Yeah. So yeah, you'll sign up for an account and then you'll get what's called an API key, which is just a randomized, numbers and letters.
It's just a password.
That's your
like
password.
like the auto passwords Apple sets up for you.
Yeah, those annoying things.
Yes.
And so here you need an API key. And so we'll just Google Zapcap API key and we'll get one. Zapcap API key.
So when you hear API key, just think unique password that you need to keep secret. Do not share it with anyone because then someone else could use all your credits in whatever tool it is.
Yeah. And so here in the docs, you'll see you can get your API key from Zapcap dashboard.
Right.
And so we'll go head over there. I already have an account. You just sign up and here's your API key.
Amazing. You don't need to view it. You can just copy
the
key.
that. Yeah. And then we'll go over back to N8n. An authentication, we'll just go, it's a generic type. Go into headers. Yeah, so I already set up Zapcap, but in case you haven't, I can show you how to do that. So we'll just create a new credential.
And you can call it Zapcap 2.
Yeah, we'll just call that Zapcap 2.
And so basically, it would be really annoying if all of the time, every single time you set up one with Zapcap, you had to go and copy your API key and paste it back in. A credential is basically a saved password or API key with a certain name so you can use it at any time.
So you definitely want to label those.
And so we'll call it Zapcap.
We just call it Zapcap 2. This name right here, we can go back to the docs because that is also important. We have to name it right here. You have to name it X API key.
Oh, you have to name it exactly. Okay.
Yeah, cool. And that's what it expects. So Zapcap will be looking for the name that looks like that and then a valid API key. So we'll make sure that is exactly how it looks. So it would be X API key. And then that API key you can just paste in right there.
Cool. And then we'll hit save.
Now you're all set up.
And now when you're in here, it automatically loads. And now anytime you're setting up Zapcap, not only can you save this entire node, right? You can actually copy and paste this entire node and use it later. If you ever want to use Zapcap, you just look for it under header auth.
Yeah.
Right. Cool.
Awesome. And now we have to send information to Zapcap. So in this case, we'll be sending the video. So we're going to send a body.
Okay.
And let's see what it expects. So it expects a multi-part form data. We'll go back. Instead of JSON, we have form data. And if you remember back to when we downloaded the video, we just named it video.
Amazing.
So we'll just go video as the name and the value is also video.
So it's always going to be named video.
Yeah.
Okay. So you can just put that in deterministically. That makes sense.
And then we'll rename this to send video to Zapcap.
Great.
Awesome. Now let's see if we got everything. Yeah, we got everything.
Cool. Is there any way at this point we could test this?
Yeah. So we can upload a file to Dropbox, test it out, and see if it sends a video to Zapcap.
But it triggers every 15 minutes.
It also isn't scheduled for 15 minutes, but once I flick this to activate.
In production, it will. Okay, we'll get to that later.
Yeah.
Okay. This is good.
Awesome. So let's drop a video in here.
So this is the folder it will always be looking at. And so it's very important to just keep testing things. So we're uploading a video. And
in raw.
So now when you hit test, it searches.
And there's an error.
It failed on download workflow. That's okay, right? That's going to happen. And so let's dig in. Let's talk about this. So why did it fail?
Okay, let's see what it said. Please check your parameters. Error in call. Files download. Match pattern. Let's check the error from Dropbox. Error in call to API function, file download. Did not match. So I think I see what the problem is. So N8n tried downloading a video from just videoplayback.mp4,
Right.
but videoplayback.mp4 is in folder raw.
Mm.
And so if you look here, this other variable called path lower has raw/video playback.
I see.
And so let's remove this, and we can just drag and drop this one in here. And so now Dropbox will look for video playback in the folder raw.
Got it.
Okay, so let's go ahead and test that again. Yep.
Okay, now it's sending to
Now there's
ZapCap.
another error.
That's okay.
Let's go ahead and look at it.
And remember, let's say you have no technical experience. Go ahead and copy that real quick, the request.
Yeah.
Just, yeah, copy that whole thing. And then what I would do is you can open up ChatGPT at any time. Obviously, you could ask N8n, but you can just paste that in here. And or you could literally give no prompt, and it'll still understand what you're doing. Like it'll be like bad request.
Attach an actual file stream.
So it's not actually a file stream.
No.
Okay.
Um,
And now, let's say you don't understand that. Say, can you please explain that this is an N8n workflow? Can you please explain this in simple terms if I don't understand this? And you can do this all the time. Like if you're not doing this all the time, you're not pushing yourself enough in whatever it is that you're doing. Like I do this 20 times a day because I'm always trying to figure out some new thing to make my workflows better. And so here it's like an N8n.
use node read binary file.
Is that the issue?
That is the issue. It's expecting the string. It's expecting the text video. Instead, we want it to upload the file.
Okay.
Name video, not just the words video. So we'll go over to parameter type. And instead of just form data, which is basically just words, we'll do N8n binary file, which would be the actual video file. And so we can just name this video. Let's test it again.
So we can test the full workflow again. Test workflow. Trigger, files, video, send video to ZapCap. Yay. Success.
Okay.
Now where is it? We don't have it.
We don't have it. Let's go ahead and let's keep going in the docs.
Amazing.
Yeah, so we went down option A. Now let's go to step 2, get available templates. And so ZapCap just has different templates for like different types of captions that you might want to have in your video. So this is actually a really hard workflow.
You want to show them the one that you made, like show them how long it is?
Yeah, like
so it's actually really long.
We got a lot to go.
We started with a really hard workflow on purpose because what we want to show you is the fact that everything in N8n, and one of the reasons it's gone so popular is influencers are actually selling workflows. Luckily for you, we're just giving everything away for free. You can copy and paste everything. So in the description, you can find a link to this page.
Yeah. And this is, we have 4 templates here. We'll add more.
And we're going to organize them. We're going to give them tags.
Them.
We're going to organize them depending on why you might want to use them.
Yeah.
But here we have this audio video or auto video caption, which uses ZapCap.
Yeah. And then so you just go over here. It's actually just one long JSON. But you'll just go ahead and copy that.
And so every template within N8n is just a JSON. So like if you go back to N8n, this node-based system is basically just a wrapper on a JSON, right? JSON, if you don't know what JSON is, it's just this like formatting text in a way that makes sense in computers. If that's not technically true, screw you. I'm using that definition. And so, so what you can copy, you can literally select and copy it. Don't do that because we already copied the other one.
Right.
You can paste the whole flow right here.
Yeah. So it's just Command V.
Yep.
Boom. We have the entire flow that was from the other page as well. But yeah, just copy the JSON, Command V, and it's all here.
So now you have that entire flow and you can create it. Now, since we're kind of going over all of these individual nodes, you can go in and customize them.
Yeah.
You can make sure that the credentials are set up correctly for your own account. But we have this workflow that should work out of the box, right?
Yeah. Yeah, it will. And if you wanted to, maybe instead of sending it to Dropbox, maybe send it to your Discord channel or Telegram. you can just edit this.
And so you want to go ahead and you want to see if we can test these?
Yeah. So we still have that video in our Dropbox.
But is it going to be the same folder since you copied it?
It'll be the same folder.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So let's go ahead and test it. And so it gets the folder, the file, and it sends it to ZapCap.
And I think one of the reasons why we went through each individual node before this and talked about the docs is like, you may still need some of that information if you want to veer off in any direction.
Yeah.
Right. And you can always use AI. You can always copy the docs for ZapCap and ask questions and figure out how to do it. And you can even ask for the JSON the same way you just copied our template. You can ask AI to generate the JSON and it will actually generate.
Yeah.
Sometimes it'll be 98% right. We want to get it to 100. That would be really cool if it was 100% correct every time. I think that would be a lot more fun, a lot easier for most people.
Yeah.
And then this step is literally wait 1
Just
minute.
1 minute as we wait for ZapCap to finish up.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. And then it's just going to use get, if you remember that, to get the video.
Amazing. So it's done getting the
Download.
video. All right. So
All
now it's downloading some file. Okay. Now it's uploading it back into the Dropbox, but it's a different folder this time.
Yeah, it's a different folder.
Got it.
Okay. It's
And so if anyone else downloads this template, they're going to need to specify their own Dropbox folder. And so they might name it something else.
Yeah.
So you'd have a kind of a pre-edited folder and then post-edited folder.
Yeah.
You can name them that as
Yeah.
well. Okay, so workflow executed successfully. Do you want to check?
Yeah. Let's go ahead and check that.
So this is the upload folder, and now the download folder, we have a new one.
I named it just WAP.
Wow.
Yeah.
Great.
Let's play it. And that's a 20-year-old video that just got automated. Yeah, we get the point.
Amazing. Okay, so this is a workflow, and you can just download this template. And now what you can do is you could actually make this whole thing a tool and give it access to an agent in theory, right? Like this could be one tool.
Yeah, that could be one tool.
So as we transition, right? So this is a linear workflow. And like, what did we learn? Let's think about what we learned for this. Like throughout this process, we learned what an HTTP request is.
Yeah.
And if you're struggling through HTTP requests, I struggled with it for a week or more. It just takes some time to understand. But like we went over the basic parts of it.
Yeah.
We did a really hard example. But what's cool is that there's templates all over the internet that you can find that allows you to just copy and paste them directly in. On top of ours, right? I'm not suggesting you need our template database by any means, right? There's actually whole GitHub repos, and we'll also paste that below, 2 massive N8n templates that you can find on the internet. And you do not need to pay for anyone's N8n templates. That's just an insane thing to do. It's free on the internet. This only works, right? This will only work while you're testing it until you publish it.
Yeah.
Here, we published it.
We got
Now
it.
it'll work every 15 minutes. It'll check your Dropbox.
Yeah.
So if you have 20 shorts that you're done with for the day, you can drag all of them into Dropbox and they will all be triggered, right?
Yeah.
Amazing.
But now I think it's time to bring in the AI agents. So this is what an N8n AI agent would look like. So compared to the linear flow, it's not linear. This is more 3-dimensional, 2-dimensional.
Yeah,
whatever.
yeah. And I always think of these little things sticking out of the agent. You know, they're no longer nodes in a path, right? They're no longer steps in a path.
Yeah.
They are optional tools that can be used, except for the model.
So like before, we need a trigger node.
Right.
In this case, we'll use webhooks, and we'll get into that in a bit on how we can integrate that further on. But let's just start off with a webhook. Boom. We'll work on that later. Now let's bring in the AI agents.
And just know that this webhook is basically just going to send in text. And we're going to show you exactly how this is. But the webhook is super magical because it allows you to hook up your whole entire flow, which will include the agent, into an external app of your choice.
Yeah.
You can vibe code an app and have it communicate with this AI agent workflow. And we'll get to that in a second, but let's move to the agent first.
Yeah. So I went ahead and added an agent. And so this is the screen you'll be brought up into. Source for prompt. So there's a source for prompt, and then you're also going to add a system prompt. What are those two? So inside the AI agent, there's two different prompts that you can use. So there's the user prompt and system message. The user prompt would be something like, what's on my calendar today? Can you do this? Can you do that?
And this is going to be what comes in through the webhook.
Whatever we send into it, it would go right here, and that's what the user message is. The system message is just for the AI agents.
And it's going to stay the same.
Yeah, that is all the same. So yeah, so the user message would change every time. System message, that's what it gets hit with all the time.
And that's the same thing if you're setting up a chat GPT, custom GPT, or a Claude project. You set the system instructions, right? It kind of grounds it in the right context, or it tells it exactly what it's going to do every time to make it more predictable. And with agents, I would say with agents, the system instructions is actually much more important, because if you give it access to a bunch of tools and you don't specify what you want the agent to do with it, you're going to be in a world of hurt.
Yeah, you basically want to put it in the right headspace, if that makes sense. You're going to give it maybe you can even give it a title. You are a master designer. In this case, you are an idea generator. You have the abilities to X, Y, Z, and those abilities would be the tools. So in this case, you have the ability to read Notion and use Buffer, which we'll get into later. And it's also, if you run into any errors, you can be important. We're not using a chat trigger node. We're using a webhook, so we'll define below. We can also just set, for testing, this is important. You can be hi. And this is just the user message. You could be
whatever you want.
Whatever you want.
And so you can actually have two different triggers, right? A webhook would be coming in from your own external tool, or you could set up another trigger that would be chat. Yeah, on a chat input field. And so this allows you to really test it within this app, because once you connect this, right, you can connect this in, and then there's going to be the option to open up a chat interface at some point.
Open chat, and then we can say hello, send.
Nothing's going to happen probably because we haven't set up
we haven't set up the agent. Yeah.
One of the predefined options is connect with the chat trigger node, which we just set up.
Yeah. So
and it has I guess would it respond, or do we have to give it an AI model?
We have to give it an AI model. So in the chat model, it'll open up this menu, and there's a bunch of different providers to choose from. And then for the model, we'll just use Claude Sonnet 4.
Let's do it.
That's the best agentic model out right now. So at this point, I think the AI agent could actually just respond to a simple, how are you doing?
Right. This is an agent, but it just doesn't have any access to any tools.
Yeah.
So
we'll
it should just
see.
respond, right? Claude responded with, what did it say?
I'm doing well.
Okay.
Thanks for asking.
It responded, but it's not interesting because it doesn't have access to anything.
Yeah.
Right. So what we could do is we could actually give it access to other things.
Yeah. And so there's a bunch of different tools that you could choose.
And so let's go ahead and give it access to Notion, because that's where we keep all of our content. So on Notion, I use Notion now specifically for AI agents, because Notion has a really good, for whatever reason, they're built-in features that allows agents or AIs to basically index their databases. It makes it easy to find things that it just gives really good context to the AI agent. Yeah, let's go ahead and do that.
Yeah, let's go ahead. And what do you want it to give access to in Notion?
So I will give it access to, let's give it access to a database,
Awesome.
Right? A database. For those of you who use Notion, that's basically a list of database entries, or wait, can you click on that database thing again? It's a list of pages. And so we're giving it access to all of the pages within the database. And I have a specific one, which we can find here.
Yeah. We want it to get a database.
We'll get a specific database. And I think we can choose it from a list here. It should be the one, if you just type in SOP, it should have one that's called How to Create Content SOPs. This is how I create all my content, right? And so now we should be good to go. We could ask the AI agent something right now. We could say, what are 5 long form hooks I could use when explaining AI agents and how they're going to change the world? And so go ahead and run this. And so what it's going to do now is it won't just run the chat thing and say check mark and then respond. It is actually going to go to the Notion node. Okay. Why didn't it go to the Notion node? because we didn't set up the instructions to tell it, right?
Yeah.
And so the reason why we did this is to illustrate the fact that if you don't set up your instructions, your AI agent is going to operate in an unpredictable way. But now, if we give the agent good instructions and we say that it has access to my content, then it will use the tool because it never used the Notion tool. And that is the key distinction. In the last example, we showed you a linear workflow where things happen automatically. Now they happen optionally, but you need to make sure the agent knows what it has access to. Okay, so you are a helpful assistant. Your job is to make the best content. You have access to a bunch of Notion tools that will assist you in making content. Anytime you are asked to write content, you need to look for either short form hooks or long form hooks or good tweets. These are all pages in the Notion database that you'll have access to use as examples for your style and tone.
Yeah.
That's good. So let's exit out of this. Now what we should do is we should probably give it access to some more Notion pages, more Notion tools.
They have a bunch of different different tools that the AI agent can use. So let's let it get many pages in a database.
Great.
From the same content SOP. Same one, return all, and let's just keep it how it is. Now let's add more. Notion. Let's let it search and let's let it choose its own search.
Yeah, we'll let it search. And then what you can say is, so now you're giving it freedom to search through this whole team space, which I think is like 100 databases. And let's go back to the system prompt here. I always wanted to start off with content SOPs. So let's just go and make a new paragraph at the bottom and say, when asked to create content, just use the creating content SOPs page that you have access to with a tool, or like that you have access to. But if asked a more open question, you may search the database for help.
Yeah, that's good.
Okay.
Awesome. Yeah, let's let it search. And then this little button right here lets the AI put in its own search text.
So this is how cool it is. As AI agents get smarter, AI agents can just put it in, like they can use these tools. The AI will decide what to put in here.
Yeah.
So we're giving it access to this massive database and we're giving it the ability to search. And so that means we're giving it some level of autonomy and it can go out and just search through it. It can decide what search text, right? The search text is not going to be deterministic. It will decide what it wants to search, which is so cool.
Yeah.
So now we actually need to add another tool, which is get block, which is basically the things beneath the page or whatever's in the page, right? And we can make this AI can decide.
Yeah.
So you want to just select
Yeah.
that?
We'll just let the AI choose the URL.
Yeah. And then,
return all. Awesome.
Now let's go ahead and try and get short form hooks because I have a list of 60 or probably like 40 of them that have been very high performing in previous videos of mine. And if we tell it to get short form hooks, it should just do that.
Awesome. You want me to read them?
Yeah. What was the first one?
Today, I realized that AI agents aren't just fancy chatbots anymore. They're digital employees that work 24/7 without breaks.
Yeah. And so here, go ahead and open up the link that I just texted you.
Yeah.
So if you open the link that I just texted you, what it had access to was this right here. And you notice today I realized that.
Yeah.
And that's the one that it used. What was the next one that it used?
You're not going to believe what I just found about AI agents.
So if you do Command F, you're not going to believe, right?
You're not going to believe what I just did / found out.
So now here, like you can decide what is high quality. And then you can say before an AI agent does something like creating content script, it will look at a bunch of good examples. So you know that you're going to get at least something that's like pretty good. AI is going to have context over what you think is high quality, which I think if there's one thing you could take away from this video when it comes to AI agents is context is king. And this is a really great way to do it, is to give it access to your database, whether it's Docs, Google Docs, Notion. In this example, we're just using Notion, but giving context is king.
So we just made this agent. And, here's some things that you might need to know when you're making one. If you remember, we ran into a few hiccups and little errors. So let's go ahead, go to executions, and we can see past executions
So
of this
every single
workflow.
time that you use the agent, it's an execution.
Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah. And then you can go back in time and see the successes or the errors.
And some of the successes can be errors because success just means it finished.
Yeah.
It doesn't necessarily mean that you're happy with it.
Right. Yeah. So let's go to the middle where we can see, let's open it up, and then we can go ahead and hit the logs to make it look better. And here we can see each step the AI agent took in order to complete its task.
Previously, you could kind of do something like this in the linear paths, right? By clicking on it, you can see the inputs and the outputs. Here, it's just steps because, again, it's not linear. So it actually lists all of the things that it does. And so you can keep track. And part of prompt engineering or AI agent engineering is making sure that you look closely at the steps. If it doesn't look like the way you want it to look, you need to adjust the prompt. You need to adjust the tools. It's all about like seeing what it does and then adjusting, seeing what it does and adjusting. And that's how you end up building the best AI agent system.
Right. Yeah. So if you run into any errors like that, me and Riley were making like a messaging agent. And a lot of the times when you said message Muhammad, it would spell it differently.
Yeah.
I'm the one on the bottom. I'm with the U. Sometimes it would do O.
Yes.
And the AI agent would be like, well, there is no Muhammad with an O, so I'm not going to send him a message, even though you did mean me.
Mm-hmm.
And in this case, we want it to be less like a perfectionist and be like, if there is one Muhammad, it's probably me.
Yeah.
So to fix that, like what you said, just change the system prompt.
Change the system prompt. Be like, get the closest one.
All right. So back to our AI agent. So like we're only interacting with it in N8n by opening this chat, but it's like,
it'd be super annoying if every time you wanted to use this AI agent, to have to go into N8n and open up the chat and type to it.
Yeah.
So one thing that I like to do, and the thing that I've been working on as a side project, is creating a group chat with AI agents.
Yeah.
And the way that you do that is the webhook. So we can actually go ahead and delete the chat input, and we can use the webhook feature right here. And so if you click on this webhook feature,
you have this URL right here. And that's kind of like what we talked about, your own endpoint that you can hit wherever you are.
And there's two types of them. We can talk about the two types. So the first type is they have this test URL, which you can use, right? So if you exit out of this and hit test, while it's testing, if you hit the test URL, it'll work. If you're not pressing test actively, it won't work. But this is nice because, as you'll see in a second, we can see exactly where the agent is as we're testing it.
Yeah.
And so let's go ahead and do that real quick.
Let's set up this webhook a little more though. We want this to be a post method because we're both sending information and receiving information back.
Okay. Yeah. As we talked about earlier.
Yeah. And we can edit this jumbled mess of a path and just say contents agents. And so now your URL looks a little nicer.
Amazing.
Awesome. And then respond. So whenever the AI agent is done, it'll tell you what happened, and you can see that information, which we'll show you. Respond immediately? No, we want to respond when last node finishes or when it's done.
Yes.
Awesome. Okay. All right. That looks good. So I'm going to bring up my app that I vibe coded, and then let's go ahead and add that URL that I just copied.
So this is an app that we vibe coded on the Vibe-Coded app. And it actually has an N8n integration built into it. And so this is if you want to hit one single webhook, but this app the app that we created allows you to hit as many webhooks as you want. You can just add them. And so right now we're creating this as like content agent test. And when we deploy it so that we can hit it over and over again, we're just going to call it content agent. And we're going to make sure that it's active. In order to create an agent like this, in our previous video, we built one of these VAAPs, and we actually started a website and community around creating VAAPs. So if you want to learn more about that, you can see that down below. Just know that you could create this with one prompt on the Vibe-Coded app or any vibe coding tool, just by saying, create an app that allows me to interact with a webhook and send data to a webhook and await its response. And what's really cool about this and why I'm so excited about this type of vibe coding, which is like the Vibe-Coded Agentic Application, is It simplifies really long workflows down to a single interaction, single webhook, right? You send a webhook in and you await its response. That's what it's doing, which means that you can change all of this. As we'll get to later, all of this, you could add 100 different tools with this right now. And as long as you keep this the same, nothing about the code needs to change, right? And so this allows you to set up these basic apps and then add back-end complexity, back-end functionality without it ruining your front end. And that is one of the biggest problems. I've been deep in the vibe coding space, people trying to build apps with AI. And the part they struggle with is when they're trying to adjust the back end, their front end code gets messed up when you only want to be editing the back end flow. And it's also hard to have a mental model of your back end. Like if you're trying to actually create an AI agent, which is impossible, this allows you to just hook it up to an AI agent. And then you can build the front end, interact with it. And then if you want to make changes to the agent, all you do is add nodes, or you can give the AI agent access to other AI agents, as we'll show you in a second, to build out a better functionality, and nothing about your front end will change. And that is why I think it's so powerful. Let's see how it works.
Yeah, I'll show you, but we're going to run into an error immediately, and I'll show you why. So let's go ahead and test, and let's just do hi, because it'll fail. And if you can see, the AI agent node failed, and that's because we kept it as the chat trigger node, and we don't have that anymore. We have the webhook. So let's go define below. Let's scroll down to the webhook and see our text that says hi. We'll just drag that in there.
And see, it says hi. So notice that whatever you sent in, right, if you go to wherever it failed, you'll see, you can look at all of the inputs. You want whatever variable is the thing that you said to be the thing that is in the input.
Yeah.
So that way, whatever we put in next will be there.
Yeah. Perfect. Now that it's all set up, let's try a real one. So let's go ahead and test workflow, and let's say, give me 5
hook ideas for creating workflows with Zapier, which is a competitor to N8n. Short form, please. So now the AI agent was triggered by the app that we created with the Vibe-Coded app N8n integration, which is literally, if you go to the Vibe-Coded app, it will literally have the option to use the N8n integration, and you can just plug in your webhook.
Yeah.
And so as long as any workflow, whether it's an agent or deterministic workflow, you can just plug in your webhook and you can build a VAAP, a Vibe-Coded Agentic Application.
Yeah.
And as AI agents get better over time, okay, you can see here that we got a response. So if you look at the phone, you see that we got a response.
This feels illegal to know.
This feels
You're
illegal
not
to
going
know,
to believe what I
which
just built.
is in my hooks. If we search illegal,
This feels illegal to know.
so think about what we just did there. We basically, we created an app, and this app you can vibe code with the Vibe-Coded integration. You could create this in one prompt, right?
Yeah.
And you actually designed this N8n integration in the Vibe-Coded app. And like, we're working really hard to make this process seamless. And we're going to build a tool that's probably better than N8n to help these workflows. I still think is a little too hard, but for right now, there's so much value in being first to understand this and actually create agents. And I know people who are selling these agentic apps or VAAPs to companies and making a ton of money because they can actually work with their company data. It doesn't even need to go to the App Store. You can share it amongst your peers without even publishing it to the App Store, which is really cool. And on Cursor, you can create web apps that do the same exact thing. And we're going to be talking about that more in the future as well. What we just showed was the fact that you could create this sort of Vibe-Coded agentic application just by connecting a webhook to an N8n AI agent that has access to different tools.
Right.
What if I told you that this process right here, which is an AI agent that has access to tools, can be turned into a tool that another AI agent has access to?
Yeah. We can
What if I told you that?
That would be,
You wouldn't believe me, right?
Yeah, no way.
You wouldn't believe me. No freaking way that works. Well, that is 100% possible. And that's what we're going to do right now.
Yeah. Yeah. So essentially, instead of just a normal tool call that will come back to the AI agent, we can connect another AI agent with
And
other tool calls.
For the AI agent that we're going to connect, what do you want to do?
So we get content idea.
Oh, but we could connect our buffer agent to it. Let's
Yeah.
connect our buffer agent to this for
Yeah.
sure, actually. Let's do that.
Let's do buffer. And let's also, maybe we can add like image generation too.
We can add multiple.
So we
Let's
can
do
get
it.
content idea, an image, and then send it to buffer.
Through this process, right? We're still going to be able to connect it like that phone, right?
Yeah.
The phone that we have here, this is still going to be connected to the webhook. So we're basically empowering our VAAP. And remember, the app that we coded, that we vibe coded, does not change. So
Yeah.
we can literally add infinite levels of complexity, which is never good for the sake of adding complexity. But if you want to make more powerful workflows, you can edit the back end, and this does not change the experience on the front end. So
Yeah.
that's what we're going to do. Why don't we go ahead and do that on N8n?
So let's go ahead and implement that. So let's go to tools, because
Amazing.
we're going to add in another AI agent.
Yep.
And then if you, actually it's at the top, call N8n workflow tool. And so this will basically just call another N8n workflow. And it's essentially, it doesn't even have to be another AI agent. It could just be, the linear flow that we had in the beginning. Let's go ahead and add that.
And so now we need to select which
Tool.
Tool.
Which workflow. And so actually we already have an agent like that. And so let's go ahead and explain this. So the model that we use, still Claude 4. And in this case, we gave it just simple memory so it can remember the user's first prompt and then come back to it if it ever forgets. And then we have actually 5 tools. So let's break that down even more. They are all HTTP requests, if you remember what that is. And if you look inside, it's an HTTP request to FAL for text to video, and returns the response via link to the media.
Amazing.
So basically, it just hits this FAL. Do you want to explain what FAL is?
Yes. So FAL is a tool. And let's go ahead and go to their webpage.
Yeah.
They are basically a platform that allows you to get access to all the creative AI tools. You've heard of VO, you've heard of ChatGPT image generator. This tool has all of the popular APIs. And so you can actually chain these together, or you can give N8n access to these APIs. So if you want image generation to be part of your workflow, you can just give an agent access to these APIs.
Yeah.
But not only can you just use these APIs directly, you can actually create, very similar to what we're doing with N8n, you can create flows. So it will edit the image. So it might generate an image, and then you might have an edit step, which would edit the image that it just generated. And then you'll have another step beyond that, which might add text to it. And then it gets sent through the API. So the same way that you can take a full agent like we're doing on N8n and turn it into a single tool, we're taking a workflow on FAL and turning it into one single API endpoint. And it looks like this. If you go back to N8n, right? This whole workflow, which is multiple steps, just looks like one single HTTP request on N8n.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And so what we can do is we can just turn those into tools that we can use on N8n. And that's what we've done. And so we can actually pull up the app here. I'll help him with this, right? You pull up the Vibe-Code app here on the right side of the screen. You can see the Vibe-Code app. Okay, so this is another one that Mohammed created. And so show the webhook. So here's the same thing that we did for the last Vibe-Coded Agentic application that we created. We connected to a webhook, but you've already done that because they get saved into the app that you create.
Yeah. So let's go ahead and test this. So generate an image
Of a
cat with a sombrero.
And yeah.
Then turn it into a video where it dances. Yeah. Let's test the webflow, send it to the webhook.
Amazing. Let's see how the webflow works.
Yeah, it's going to the text to image.
Amazing. And so you can see here, like normal, the AI agent thinks. Now it's using the tool, in which case one of the tools is a workflow on FAL, right?
Yeah.
And again, we're experimenting with all these different things, and we're using all these different external tools and connecting them and using the power of AI to actually know what to do in the moment. And this is how people are creating content, like automated content.
So
now
it looks like it went text to image, so it probably generated the cat, and then now it's turning that image and text to video.
right now we see a success.
Let's scroll down. That's our image of the cat with the sombrero. And then if we go to the right, let's watch it dance.
Hey.
Yeah. Oh, that is freaky.
Okay. I mean, wait, let's see it again. That's fire. All right. So now we have this cat dancing. That's pretty sick.
I guess that's as good as a cat could dance.
Yeah, that's great.
Also gave me the first image back, so that's cool. That's a cute cat.
Love it.
Awesome. Now connect it to the other agent. So to connect it to the other agent, we're going to want to add this other trigger node, and that's called when executed by another workflow. And to do that, you would just click this plus, add another trigger. And then it's right here, when executed by another workflow. And when you open it, the input data mode should just accept all data. So whenever another AI agent, like this one, calls this other AI agent, the media AI agent, it'll take in all the data that it knows and then work with it.
So really think about what we're doing here. So as you just saw, we sent in a request exactly to generate an image of a cat and then to turn it into a video.
Yeah.
And we could do that, and we could set it up to an external app that you can vibe code. If you've been watching my content, you know how to vibe code at this point. Now, instead of using the webhook on this one, we just switched it to when executed by another workflow. If you go to the other workflow, the master workflow is what I call it, this agent is above it in authority. So now, instead of it being triggered by you, it's going to be triggered by another agent that is triggered by you.
Yeah.
So now, like what we could do here is like we can now generate videos that are more relevant to us because it has access to all of my content in my Notion. You know? I have an idea. So now we have this master agent set up that can create a video. It can create a video if it wants.
Let's choose which one it was. We have a bunch of them. Media agent is the right one. Source database, that's fine. Let's give it a description on what the workflow does so the head agent knows what it does.
Mm-hmm.
This workflow uses an AI agent to generate different types of media because it can also generate photos and videos. And then let's rename it just media agent so we know. Cool.
Okay. So we just added this as a tool. So would it work? Could we use it as a tool now?
Yeah, let's try it.
All right. So now we have the VAAP open, that same one that we made earlier.
So we just added another AI agent to our AI agent.
Amazing.
And
Let's
that's
do it
just
again.
a tool call. Yeah. Let's go call N8n workflow tool.
Really cool.
And let's make it post on buffer.
All right.
I think we made this agent in another video.
Yeah. So a few days ago, we created an agent that has access to Buffer, which is the tool that we use to schedule social media posts.
Yeah.
And so it's called the poster agent, as you can see here.
Yeah.
We'll connect that.
And let's add a description. This workflow has an agent to post on Buffer. And so now our master agent has context about what this workflow does and what to pass to it. Perfect. And now let's move that here. Let's rename it.
Poster.
Mr. Poster. Poster. Poker. Rename. Cool.
All right. So now we have an agent that has access to 4 normal tools,
Yeah.
as well as 2 other agents, which is an agent that has other tools within it.
Yeah.
And we set this up. So now we can
Try it on our VAAP.
wait, does the poster agent have a trigger of use tool?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, when executed by another workflow.
Amazing.
I'll hit this.
So we're
Buffer.
ready to go.
Cool. In fact, it actually also has get content SOP, read SOP.
Okay. So we could actually remove those. Let's go ahead and remove it. We don't need to save it for this one, but like, right?
Yeah,
It's doing
yeah.
that outside of the scope of this one.
Yeah.
And there's no need to do things twice, you know?
Yep.
Okay. So now let's go ahead and test workflow. I want you to please write a short form video using the short form hooks as an example about how tigers might go extinct. The post should be a short form script with an image of a tiger and then post it on social media through the Buffer tool. And
Cool.
that gets sent in to the agent. So now it needs to actually go to Notion first, probably.
Yep.
There we go. It searched the Notion. Now it's thinking again,
That's what we want.
right? And
Now
now
it
it
has-
searched. Now it searched for the right page, and then it got the information from the page.
Yep.
And now it should go to the media agent. There it is.
Now it's inside the media agent.
Now it's generating an image. This might take 15 to 20 seconds here. And this will go to my buffer.
Yeah. And so the media agent is done. So I'm sure it returned
The image.
the image that you wanted. And now the agent is thinking again what to do. And then went to poster.
Now it's going to poster, the poster agent. And I am just going to plug this into my screen right here.
Other side.
And if we refresh buffer, here you go. We see the title. And so this is awesome, right? We have this image of a generated tiger, and we have a short form script right here from 100,000 to less than 4,000 tiger in just a century. And one of the hook templates is from X to Y in less than a certain period of time. So it actually took a hook from my Notion, but here's hope. And so this is kind of, I feel like it's pulling this from my own voice. I do never use hashtags, so this is something that I might want to change.
In the system prompt too, you
And
could do something like that.
Yeah, and I also did an image post, so it might think that it was trying to do a tweet. But this is really cool that it used the from X to Y hook format.
Yeah.
And we just threw this together last minute, and it was able to go through all these different steps.
Yeah. And it's sort of like Lego pieces, you have different types of agents. And if you want to make a whole new workflow, you just connect, media, poster, new agent,
100%.
brand new utility.
And going on the Lego piece theme, like just realize that like at any time you can copy everything and you can paste them just like Lego pieces. If we started a new template, like you could create a new N8n page, you can copy it just by, first of all, you could duplicate the whole thing.
Yeah.
But you could also just copy and paste parts of a workflow or the whole workflow and paste things together. And whenever you get stuck, just always remember to ask AI. Take screenshots of the page or just copy the full JSON. In fact, that's what you should probably do most of the time is just copy the JSON and paste it into ChatGPT and ask questions to really get through the tough parts. Like if you get stuck, and you will get stuck, it's almost guaranteed. So if you get stuck, you're not stupid. You're learning something that is actually valuable. And if you fight through it, you won't regret it.
Yeah. And it's only going to get easier from here too.
Okay. We talked about a lot here. And I think we should just mentally recount what we talked about today. So we talked about today how AI agents are basically changing everything. The length of time that an AI agent or an AI chatbot can basically work is doubling every 7 months.
Yeah.
And so we're at the point where an AI agent you can give it a request and it can work for over an hour.
Yeah.
Soon it will be over 24 hours. Soon it will be a week. And it's obvious. The trend is obvious. Like you're way deeper in the AI agent space. AI agents are getting more powerful. It's getting easier to connect them to tools.
Yeah.
In future videos, we'll talk about MCP, which even makes it easier to communicate with tools.
Yeah.
We're heading towards a world, and correct me if I'm wrong here, where AI agents are just going to be freely roaming and just grabbing things, and you're going to be able to give them money. There's startups that are working on giving like USD coin or crypto to these AI agents that can go out and, if it needs to, pay humans to do tasks. And so understanding that modern AI models like Gemini 2.5, like O3, like Claude Opus, all these tools are built to use tools. They're built to be agents, and it's only going to get better. And look at this chart.
Yeah. If we start from the very beginning, TuroChamp, the first AI chess, the AI tech was not there and there's no adoption. Big Sleep, that was my first interaction with AI. It's like an image generator. First one of its kind, complete trash. But again, that was just the beginning. 3.5, reasoning, agents. And if you can see, the AI tech is up here.
Yeah.
But the adoption really is not where it's supposed to be. And I think this area right here is an area for opportunity.
Yeah, and I think that's why N8n is so popular, is I think it's addressing this gap.
Yeah.
And I think there's going to be a lot of other tools. And so while we're talking about N8n, I think N8n is actually like annoyingly hard to use. I think for someone who's not technical, who doesn't really know the ins and outs of documentation, HTTP requests, it's really annoying.
Yeah.
This is something that we're going to try and solve at some point. Just to be transparent and open about it, like we want to solve the N8n problem, because I think the key to vibe coding is being able to vibe code backends and workflows and agents. I think that's where all the magic is. I think people are getting bored of making landing pages with vibe coding tools, no matter how like well the AI streams out. It's getting a little bit boring. And so I think the key to creating like really useful apps that anyone can build for any reason, the same way that like CapCut made it super easy for anyone to create content. Like I think all the magic of that happens in the backend, being able to use these backend workflows. But this is like a 2 or 3 year run. And so like right now you have this window where it's still hard to create these backend workflows. That's a good thing. Anytime something is hard, but just now possible, are the things where you can make millions of dollars. And I don't mean that in like a selling you shovels way, because I'm not trying to sell you anything. What I am trying to say is like, I got into AI right as it became possible. People didn't really know what it was. And the amount of opportunity in the LLM space at the beginning was like so much opportunity. And like right now, I think AI agents is in that stage. And so understanding AI agents is very important. I think N8n is the best place to start. And so thank you for watching this video. This has been a grind, a long one. But we're going to make some more videos in the future.
Yeah. Let us know what you guys want to see next.
Amazing. See you guys later.